Hi Swifties, welcome back to my channel. I am the Taylor Swiftologist, and if you're new here, I am a journalist by trade and Swiftie by choice, and in my free time, I like to dedicate my organizational and analytical skills to dissecting the public persona of my favorite pop star, Taylor Swift. So if that sounds interesting to you, subscribe to this channel. Also, do leave me a comment if you have any video suggestions or topics that you'd like to see. I am very open to different kinds of content ideas, and I often pick ideas right from your suggestions. So it would be great to hear what you have to think about this content and where you'd like it to go in the future. This video is really the video of my dreams because I get to control and make up and dream the perfect Taylor Swift concert that ever existed ever in the world. I tried to be balanced and realistic when I was creating this. Like, I want this to be something that could actually happen in the world rather than just like my total like wet dream of what I would want a Taylor Swift concert to be. It's kind of like a mix between the two, I would say. I found a little shortcut around having so many songs to include. I've made a couple mashups and I've shortened a few songs. So I think we saw this on the Reputation tour. She was like, the catalog was really getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we had things like the Style You Belong With Me love story mashup, and I definitely have taken inspiration from that and had a few fun moments in this tour that I think would be super fun. So visually, I haven't really thought it out fully, but I'm thinking it would definitely be a stadium tour. And that's kind of important to remember when I'm going through this set list, because I anticipate people will be like, why isn't there more Folklore Evermore? This is a production, okay? And you can't do a production at a Folklore and Evermore. That was made to be played in an intimate setting. Sure, you could put her on stage in front of 80,000 people and get her to play the entire records front to back, but people would fall asleep, I'm telling you. People would leave, people would not stay for the entire thing. It would just get a little bit one note. So in order to make it a little bit more exciting, I wanted to make sure that there were many, many upbeat, fun numbers, because when I go to a concert, that's what I'm looking to do. I want to release my demons, right? I want to dance, I want to laugh, I want to cry, I want to sing my little heart out. I want a little bit of everything, and Folklore as a concert would just be like a little bit too much, I think, for me, because I also, yes, I want to sob and cry and break down, but I also want to like shake my ass and have a few drinks and scream at Blondie on stage. So please don't hold that against me. So I'm envisioning this as a stadium tour comparable in size to the Reputation tour. I'm thinking a similar stage layout. I would maybe make it like the Red Tour stage, but at a Reputation tour scale. So there would definitely be a B stage. Whether there would be one or two B stages, I don't know. One of the B stages in my imaginary tour is going to have the little rotating tree that the Speak Now tour had, because I just think that that was so adorable. And there's an intimate moment in my dream show where that would work perfectly. The organizing principle that I kind of split this up into, I think I gave it 6 acts, right? So 6 different separate moments in the show. The way that I've organized it is happy, free, confused, lonely, miserable, and magical, because I feel like those are the central tenets of the Taylor Swift discography. This is what her entire discography is about. You could pretty much neatly organize every single Taylor songs into those 6 different categories. So that's what I've done. I've done it in that order as well. We start out with happy, we go into free, then we get to confused, lonely, then we get miserable, and then we get magical to finally, end it and top it all off. And I have an additional like fun thing I want to throw in at the end, a surprise medley that I couldn't fit into this actual set list, but I think that you guys would enjoy the concept of. And I have really tried to represent every album as best as I possibly could. I will say there isn't a lot of Speak Now representation, and that's because it was hard to find moments to slot it in once I got started. So I can kind of see now, like when Taylor's making her set lists, how hard it is to give equal representations to all the records. Some records are just better suited to having bigger moments, right? So I tried to go with the crowd pleasers as well, because I want to hear all the hits. Like, I care about my deep cuts, but I also love and respect the absolute blockbusters in the discography. So I tried to straddle the balance, and you guys can leave a comment and let me know what you think. This is the one time that I will allow you to disagree and be mean and be rude about your opinions. I'm willing to have a fight about this in the comments, so let's go. So the first act is the happy act. We're starting happy, free, confused, lonely, miserable, magical. Act 1 is the happy act, and of course, our big number, our opening bang to set the tone for the whole concert. Can you guess what it is? If you've been watching my videos, I think you can guess. It's Cruel Summer, okay? Cruel Summer is a moment, and Cruel Summer never got the moment that she deserved. She didn't get a music video, she wasn't a single, she just wasn't treated in the way that she deserved to be treated. So I think I would like to make up for lost time and repair the mistakes of the past by giving Cruel Summer the moment it deserves as the opening to this tour. And by the way, I'm thinking that this tour would take place at the end of her re-recordings. So all of the albums would be out and it would be like a victory lap and a celebratory kind of taking back ownership of her prior work while also paying homage to Folklore and Evermore. And this is, provided another TS10 doesn't come out of nowhere, but even if it does, I would still like this show to go on the way that it is. Because this is the happy part of the show, I want this to really have that kind of Loverfest vibe that she was going for. It's going to be very colorful and, lots of dancers. I want her to wear something glittery and shiny. I'm thinking like Speak Now gold dress, but like make it pink somehow, or make it blue and pink and purple, like the delicate dress from the Reputation tour. I don't know, get creative with it. So Cruel Summer would open up and then we would go into a double feature. So how she usually does 3 songs at the beginning of the show before she like addresses the crowd, or maybe like 2 songs before she addresses the crowd. I want her to do Cruel Summer and then I want her to do I Think He Knows, which is a short song, into London Boy, like without stopping. I think He Knows and London Boy are quite sonically similar, so one can pick up where the other left off. So if you think about it, Cruel Summer, I Think He Knows, London Boy, hello, best opening of all time. Back-to-back bangers, fun, dancing, bopping. We need to give Lover a little bit of reputation since Loverfest didn't happen and we have to give it its moment. So here it is, starting off with the absolute best moments on Lover. So after I Think He Knows and London Boy, she needs a moment to catch her breath, right? Like she needs to get her smart water with the little straw and sit there and sip and, do her surprised face and look out at everybody and have a little speech. So I think that this would be the perfect time for her to kind of, wrap up how liberating and freeing it feels to finally be out of the woods, haha, with the re-recordings and owning her past again and feeling ready to move on and move forward. And what better song to follow that welcome speech than Long Story Short? Can you believe it? I'm such a hater of this song. You wouldn't think that I would put it in the set list, but I found a place for it. I found that it really fit the kind of narrative that I'm building for this show. And I can be more impartial than you expect me to be. But I will say that I would want this version of Long Story Short to be beefed up. Like, I don't want it to have that Evermore production. I want it to have more of that Lover. I want more synths. I want more of a bass. I want a higher drum. Give me some hi-hat, whatever it is. I want it to be beefed up, swelled up, improved, and made better. I think this would be a really cute and sweet way to kind of pay homage to the past while looking forward to the future as well. After that, the old Taylor is fresh in our minds. We're thinking about her because we're thinking of what a long story it's been and how that long story has now been shortened. So speaking of shortening long stories, I would like to do a 3-song medley. So this is similar to style You Belong With Me Love Story in that it's like a verse and a chorus and then a bridge maybe, or maybe it's just the bridge and the chorus. So this is how it's gonna go. You Belong With Me, into Our Song, into Today Was a Fairy Tale. Isn't that the most fun thing ever in the world? Like, doesn't that just don't all of these songs, these songs I've collected for you and described over the last 5 minutes, don't they all sound like happy songs? Songs that you want to dance and wriggle around to and throw your hands up in the air and say, thank God I'm at a Taylor Swift concert because I feel like I'm on top of the world. That's how I would feel. So I can give you the moments where I think that these songs would break down into each other. I think that You Belong With Me would be, the first verse, chorus, into the bridge. So then when she goes to the very end of the bridge, I think you know where you belong, I think you know it's with me. Then there would be a little pause, and then she would get into bridge chorus of Our Song where she goes tapping on his window. See Our Song all the way through to the end. From that point, it's only like a minute or so. And then we would get into the same moment in Today Was a Fairy Tale, which is where she's at the end of the bridge going into that kind of last chorus where she's going, can you feel this magic in the air? That would be the lead-in after Our Song. Can you imagine just how beautiful that would be? And I would want her to be playing the banjo for all of this. Fun fact, she can't play the banjo. She plays the guitar that looks like a banjo and sounds like a banjo, but it's actually a guitar. So I would want her to play the banjo for all of this. Isn't this just wonderful? Don't you love this idea? I love this as an opening. It's so much fun. At the very end of Act 1, after my medley, You Belong With Me, Our Song, Today Was a Fairy Tale, I would do August. I would do a shortened version of August. I would do a verse, a chorus, the bridge, and finish. But I feel like it fits in quite nicely in that happy area, and it gives some folklore representation. And I think that August is one of those folklore songs that can be scaled up. Like, you can add in different instrumentations and make it a really fun sing-along song that just gives you that kind of carefree happiness. And we saw that with the Grammy performance, that it can be beefed up instrumentally. So I would be happy to include August for a brief moment at the end of the happy section. But then we go into Act 2, which is Free. So this is a little more like sexy, I guess, a little bit more like Daredevil-ish. So in Act 2, Free, we begin with New Romantics because That song just is a moment, okay? Like when I think of freedom and I think of like moving on in the face of adversity, I think of New Romantics. It's like I'm gonna cry my eyes out, but I'm still gonna go out to the club and I'm gonna dance around and I'm gonna have the best time ever. And that's exactly what that song is all about. So we start with New Romantics in Act 2, and then after New Romantics, we get into 22. Need I explain? I feel like I don't even need to explain why these songs come. You guys will know. You can just imagine the procession of these songs. So we have New Romantics 22, and then I think we need to do Blank Space and Style together, a medley, shortened. So we would do like, it's kind of hard with Blank Space because Blank Space just goes off all the way. I would actually start from the second verse and go all the way to the end, and then we would do Style from the first verse to the first chorus and the bridge and finish. So those two songs would go together. We need to just kind of get them out of the way because they kind of don't really fit in anywhere else in my set list, but we have to have them represented. Obviously they're huge hits. And then after that, you know, leading out of the free section, we would have Delicate, a quieter moment, a relaxed moment, because she's been running around, stomping around, dancing for a long time at this point. And obviously in between each act, there's an outfit change. I mean, you're free to dream up what you would like those outfits to look like. I have an idea, but I don't think I'm ready to share my visualizations yet. So Act 3, Confused. Now I went back and forth with how I was gonna structure this, but I feel like confused Taylor Swift songs can still be like upbeat and fun, but they're just kind of like, they have a sort of doomedness about them or a fatality to it. So I'm starting Act 3 confused. So we leave off with Delicate from Act 2. We're going into Act 3 with Holy Ground. Don't tell me Holy Ground doesn't belong in a Taylor Swift concert. Everyone likes to call it a D cup, whatever. People go sicko mode when they hear Holy Ground. Everybody loves it. At this point, the fandom is more filled with like stans than it is casual fans, so you can really go balls to the wall with going deep into the discography at a show. But I'm thinking specifically of the F1 race in Austin, I think it was, where Taylor performed Holy Ground. It was amazing. It was so good. I think it's still the Red Tour production version, but with her big girl voice. And you know, her Holy Ground is a moment of uncertainty. It's a fleeting feeling of satisfaction after many years of kind of painfulness and that sad, happy feeling of being nostalgic. So that's how I would lead into the confused portion of the show. And I would go into Gold Rush, because Gold Rush is about that first glance feeling on New York time. That's literally exactly what she's describing. This kind of like unsureness, feeling on the edge of something that could be real, but not knowing if it has the legs to stand the pressure that you're going to place on it. And I would, you know, this is another one of those Folklore Evermore songs that I think can be beefed up because it has this beautiful orchestral production, and you know, this girl has budget, so we can get a full string section to come in and do Gold Rush. So Holy Ground and Gold Rush, and then I would go into Out of the Woods, the 1989 tour version, because you know, that is a frenetic, anxious song, and she has explained at length about how that song sounds the way the feeling felt, and that feeling was being confused. So it lands right there in the middle, and then I would go into a medley of I Knew You Were Trouble and Look What You Made Me Do. Listen to me. I think that when the dubstep ends, the beat for Look What You Made Me Do can come right back in. That Right Said Fred, I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt beat. And you know, we would shorten both of the songs. It would pretty much just be a verse and a chorus. Although I would wonder if, you know, Look What You Made Me Do would be better served going straight into the bridge and then ending with the chorus, because it really is that good. But my favorite part of Look What You Made Me Do is I got smarter, I got harder in the nick of time, that like refrain. So we would need to include that somewhere. Don't really know how to do it, not my job, but that's my idea. So Act 3 so far is Holy Ground, Gold Rush, Out of the Woods, I Knew You Were Trouble, Look What You Made Me Do, mashup, and then we would end Act 3 and go into Act 4 with Mirror Ball. And Mirror Ball, again, is one of those songs that can be scaled up a little bit with instrumentation, but I don't want it to be too scaled up because we're proceeding into Act 4, which is Lonely, and this is the unplugged version. So she would somehow make her way to the Tree B stage at this point. This is, you know, her and a guitar moment with the audience. First song that she's gonna do when she's in this Lonely section is another mashup, and this one I love. It's Teardrops on My Guitar and Last Kiss. If you're only familiar with the pop version of Teardrops on My Guitar, this might not make sense to you. If you go and listen to the country version, which is on the debut, it is definitely more twangy, it's more heartfelt, it's more pulling at your heartstrings. It's certainly a more kind of lonely, sad moment, and you really do get that visual of her sitting in her bed, crying alone, and the teardrops falling on her guitar as she's writing this song. And I think that that naturally leads very well into Last Kiss. The guitar, specifically the guitar riff on Teardrops on My Guitar, the normal version going into Last Kiss, I can see a sonic cohesion there that I feel like is very galaxy brained of me to pick up on. So I would like that to be the first moment in the Lonely section, because both of those songs to me are her most kind of acutely lonely experiences. I really get the sense that she's like singing to me when I hear those songs. And then I would have Better Man come in, because any moment where she references a song at 4 a.m., pacing around a hotel room, crying on the phone, sitting in a chair by the window, I don't know what it is. Those moments to me are very like isolated and lonely in nature. And then because it's an unplugged section, this is kind of where the Folklore Evermore like bulk majority of what I would want to have on the set list needs to come in, because it's a slower moment, a more intimate moment. And I think that, you know, this medley that I put together leads out into something more hopeful, which takes us to, I guess, another point in the show. So it starts with Cardigan, and then we go into My Tears Ricochet, and then we go into Willow, and then we go into Ivy, and we go into Invisible String. Now this would be a medley, right? It wouldn't be like verse chorus of each song. It would be kind of like interpolating different elements and maybe only taking a few lines from one song and then doing more of another song. But I think that in general, that handful of songs kind of achieves what needs to be achieved from including Folklore and Evermore on the set list. And we already have like Long Story Short and Gold Rush. So I think this is pretty fair, to be honest. You can't overload a set list with Folklore Evermore songs, like I said, or it will just become a snooze fest. Act 5, Miserable. Miserable, okay. Miserable Taylor Swift songs are kind of like hard to find. I would say that they lean a bit more like angry rather than sad or despair. So I'm gonna start Act 5, Miserable, with Death by a Thousand Cuts, because that song makes me feel fucking miserable. I love it, don't get me wrong, but that song really is kind of like, damn, look at what I just lost. Like, there's no hope to be found in that song. She's asking the traffic lights if she'll be okay, and they're literally saying, I don't know. Like, the traffic lights don't know how you're feeling, girl, there's something wrong. We've just had the unplugged version, so Death by a Thousand Cuts lifts the mood up a little bit more, and it's gonna drop down later in the Miserable set, so I need it to be up for a little bit. So to follow Death by a Thousand Cuts, I have Forever and Always, and this can also be a shortened version if it needs to be, although I think that we could do the whole thing of Forever and Always, chair throwing included. This is a miserable song. She's mad, she's upset, she's angry, she wants to get revenge, okay? And we can't put Better Than Revenge on the set list. So I'm gonna put Forever and Always here, and following it up, we're gonna go into like a slightly more quiet version of the miserable moment, but still with a full band. We're gonna do Right Where You Left Me, and we're gonna shorten it, because Right Where You Left Me has a really long instrumental component to it, so we're just gonna cut that out, and we're gonna go, you know, we're just gonna do the song all in one go. I think it would be about 3 minutes, but I want her to do this with her 12-string guitar. I think that it would be a really cute moment. Oh, and in the unplugged section, I am, of course, expecting that she plays the koi fish guitar. Duh. Right Where You Left Me is such a vividly miserable song, and I love it, and I think that the Help, I'm Still at the Restaurant part will be really fun for the crowd to scream and shout back at her. I can see people really getting into it, so I want to put that there. And then we are going to end the miserable act with All Too Well 10-minute version. Need I say more? I mean, we might actually have to cut one of the songs from the miserable section just so All Too Well has all the time it needs to go on. But yeah, I mean, need I say more? The All Too Well 10-minute version needs to be performed on a tour at some point. It's not sustainable to do it on every tour, but you know, if we're doing the retrospective, the greatest hits, the I'm So Happy I'm Free, then of course this is the place where it needs to go. And then Act 6 is Magical. So the magical section is just supposed to be fun. So I actually originally put We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, but a shortened version, kind of like the This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things interpolation on the Reputation tour, but I think I want to swap it out now for a thing that I took out, and that is an I Heart, I'd Lie, and Permanent Marker, very short, fun, tongue-in-cheek medley. I think that that would be such a cute nod to her discography and the Vault songs and the Secret songs. I just think that that would be a really cute thing to include, and it would wrap up the show really nicely. You know, we like to go back in time, so we would do that really fast, kind of how like Should Have Said No made a brief appearance in Bad Blood, and then we would go into Shake It Off, because we should always end the show with Shake It Off. But don't think I forgot the legends. Don't think. We end it with Shake It Off, but she comes out for an encore, and what does she do in the encore? This is my best moment ever. A mashup of Love Story and Enchanted, because those are the two songs that say everything we need to know about Taylor Swift as an artist. And that is my dream set list, Swifties. You can argue with me and leave your comments and your thoughts on what should or shouldn't be in the iconic dream Taylor Swift set list below. Make sure to subscribe and like this video, and I will see you in the next one.